Welcome to Mindset Matters with Christine Berry. I have a question for you. Are you a sympathetic freezer? I know that sounds like a strange question, but stick with me because you might learn something really important about how you handle stress. My name is Christine Berry, and I welcome you to my Mindset Matters talk. I love to discuss anything that will improve our life and our well-being, and I hope that you'll find it useful. I am an advanced soul realignment Akashic practitioner as well as a facilitating trainer. And so I can either do readings for you or I can teach you how to do readings for yourself and your clients and family. I'm also an advanced BodyTalk practitioner and a BodyTalk instructor. So if you'd like to find out more about BodyTalk and have a BodyTalk session, I'm your gal. If you want to learn how to do BodyTalk for yourself, your family, or your clients, I'm also your gal. Now let's get to it. I want to do a quick recap about the nervous system. It has two states that we can be in with our nervous system. The sympathetic, which promotes protection and creates constriction. This will keep us alive and keep us safe. We do not need to be here very often. Parasympathetic nervous system state promotes restoration and it creates expansion. This is where we want to live. We can only be in one state or the other at any given time, although we can switch back and forth fairly rapidly depending on the circumstance. And each state can be experienced physically, mentally, and or emotionally. And most versions of the sympathetic state are actually life diminishing in nature. Even though it's meant to protect us, if we're there when we don't really need to be, if we're there too long, if we're there too often, then it will start to shut down our ability to grow, heal, repair, digest, renew, and so on. Now let's look at what I mean by a freezer. Basically, in the sympathetic nervous system state, there are 4 categories: fight, flight, freeze, or faint. And today I want to talk about freeze. The reason I want to talk about this is because I really believe that the first step towards life-affirming change for any of us is to understand ourselves better. And when we understand our body, our mind, our emotions, the way we operate, we can actually then start to choose better for ourselves. So let's talk about the physical effects or signs that you might be a freeze person. Do you stall when you're put on the spot? Do you stutter? Do you feel paralyzed sometimes? Not all the time, but in those moments that catch you off guard, is that sort of your default, that you might be frozen in place like a deer in the headlights? This is definitely something that has happened to me many times. I'm very well acquainted with this particular state. If I'm going to be stressed and I'm going to go into the sympathetic state, this is pretty much one of the top 2 for me that I will react to by default. You can feel stunned. You might not get tasks completed. If you don't push to the end, you might stall halfway through and then you just never get back to them because every time you go to redo or restart that task, it's way too much work. You feel overwhelmed. And you might find, and this is something that has been common for me in my lifetime, is I sometimes, if I'm put on the spot or I'm put in a position that I don't quite know what to do, I will struggle to respond appropriately. That deer in the headlights, that I don't know what to say. And then I think of what I wanted to say way later. And I come up with a really witty remark or a good comeback, but not in time for it to have any impact on the situation. Then there is the mental aspect, and these tie together, of course. So some of them will cross over, but this is that feeling of like, does the cat have your tongue? Why aren't you responding? Why do you look like you're spaced out? So this is being stuck for words, that not being able to respond appropriately. If somebody said something rude, you should obviously be able to defend yourself, things like this. You can have stalled thoughts, foggy brain, diminished memory lapses, any kind of confusion from mild to extreme, feeling distracted. Procrastination is not always a flaw in our character. Sometimes it is literally that we are in the sympathetic nervous system state. A feeling of panic or anxiety, feeling unmotivated, and again, that space cadet state where people kind of think you're a little bit out of it or you're not paying attention. It could be because you've gone into the sympathetic freeze state. And finally, emotionally, we can feel anxious, overwhelmed, confused, depressed, sad, have low energy, feel stagnant, have that sense of malaise. And then we get critical of ourselves, or we pity, we have some self-pity because we feel like we just didn't handle that well. And I know that all too well, where I just didn't say the thing I really wanted to say. It's not all the time, but it's definitely when you're in a situation that just pushes you over that edge from parasympathetic into sympathetic stress state. And that can make you feel like a failure. It can make you feel incompetent because these things cascade one into the next. And then we might feel like we start to withdraw. So, if you ever have felt, oh, I'm such a slow poker, I'm a late bloomer, or I'm a slow learner, it may not be that it's all related to what you think it is. It could literally be that you have a default of going into the sympathetic nervous system state of freeze. Now, there are lots of things that we can do about this. And so I'm going to make a few suggestions for the better way to address this type of a default mechanism, because we each hold the power to stop our own cycles of stress. First of all, we do have to pause. We have to decide that we deserve peace in our life, and then we have to make time and space for those changes. We have to assess what's going on with us, understand our stress. This is just an introduction to get you started on that process. But then you can research it a bit more. You can watch yourself and see how you respond, and then you can actually engage in long-term solutions. We really ultimately, no matter which state of the sympathetic state that we go in, as a default, or several of them, is that we want to get out of that quickly. We want to be able to cultivate a natural response to this parasympathetic, because the bottom line is that the body and mind only reverse stress when we are in the parasympathetic nervous system state. So we want to choose solutions that activate this state. So when you go looking for solutions, whether they be some of the ones I suggest or things that you find, your goal is to look for things that get you into the parasympathetic state. And that means that they create growth, healing, digestion, rest, refreshment, renewal, rebuilding, recharging, and so on. I really firmly believe, if you don't take anything else away from this talk, I really want you to know that I do not believe that we are made to be broken. None of us. And when I realized that for myself when I was 19, it changed my life. And I invite you to believe and live as though you believe the same thing. We can all choose a healthy life. It just takes a little more work and a little bit more self-determination. But when we realize that our patterns do not define who we are, the patterns of the past do not say this is who you are, we can confidently make effective changes. So although I started this with asking you, are you a sympathetic freezer? You are not. What you do is you may potentially be a person who defaults to the sympathetic freeze state when you're stressed. You are not a freezer. So please take that away with you today. And there are many solutions. Again, we know that doing what we have always done will render the same results. We've all heard this. We're not going to get different results if we don't do something different. We can't just think differently. So taking new relevant action is the best way to ensure new desired results. I invite you to use my list of solutions or create your own so that you can choose peace for yourself today. Here are some parasympathetic activities that I strongly recommend for myself, and I think that you might enjoy trying them as well. There is a Cortices brain balancing technique that I teach on my YouTube channel, The Good Energy Hub. You will find that just by putting in Cortices with Christine or Cortices. Also, deliberate breathing. We do this when we do yoga. We do this when we do meditation, but you can actually just do straight good old breathing. And nowadays with our Google, we can look up anything. Guided meditation is also very powerful, and I have a beautiful 6-minute guided meditation that I invite you to try. Just look at the link below and please enjoy. There's lots of meditations out there, so it really doesn't matter which ones you choose. Whichever you're drawn to will be the right ones for you. If you have people in your life you can hug, this is a very good parasympathetic activity. Nature walks and earthing, so being able to put your feet in the grass, being able to swim in the ocean or the lake, being in nature in any form is going to bring you into that parasympathetic state. But remember, you have to put your devices down. You can't be holding your phone and staring at your screen. You need to engage with nature. Two of my favorite ways to get into the parasympathetic state are BodyTalk sessions and the types of series that I teach. So you can book a BodyTalk session with me anytime on a Tuesday. The link is below. I welcome you to give it a try. It not only helps to de-stress you, but it helps to unravel the source of your stress. Stress comes from our perception of the world, and BodyTalk is excellent at unraveling our limited beliefs, our self-defeating ideas of the world, and to really help bring us into a better place of peace and cohesion within ourselves. And then I have a peace series that you can engage for 12 weeks. I invite you to check it out below when I release the link, and you're going to love that as well. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really encourage you to choose peace today. Don't forget to check out the links below for the 6-minute guided meditation, and for the BodyTalk session with me, and for the Cortices technique and the peace series when it's ready for you to engage with it. Please visit me today at thegoodenergyhub.com, and I wish you a beautiful day.